So we'll be scanning for the lateral and medial pectoral nerve. So to do that, we'll place a linear high-frequency transducer slightly below the clavicle on the lateral chest. And what we'll see is we'll see two muscles. We'll see the pec major and pec minor. We may or may not initially see the thoracochomial artery, which is one of our guiding landmarks to try to find the lateral pectoral nerve and the medial pectoral nerve. Fortunately, when we've placed the probe on his chest right now, we've found the thoracochomial artery quite quickly. You can see the thoracochomial artery here. Above it is pec major, below it is pec minor. Okay, and likely here is the lateral pectoral nerve. So the lateral pectoral nerve will sit on one side or the other of the artery. You can better delineate it with using things like nerve stimulation. So you can stimulate what you think is the lateral pectoral nerve, and then you should see a twitch of the pec major. The medial pectoral nerve will live in these hyperechoic fascial planes in the pec minor. And what we also see here in this picture is the pleura. So you'll see the pleura. This line is composed of both the visceral pleura and the parietal pleura. And what you can see is with respiration, it's sliding or moving. We also see the ribs here. So if you're going to do this nerve block, sometimes it's nice to put the artery and the lateral pectoral nerve next to a rib, so that if you go a little too far with your needling, you'll just wind up hitting a rib versus actually puncturing the pleura. So we'll talk about potential complications of doing a medial and lateral pectoral nerve block. One of the more dreaded complications is a pneumothorax. So we'll talk a little bit about pleural scanning in order to discern whether or not you have a pneumothorax. So what we have here is our medial and lateral pectoral nerve view, and what we can see at the bottom is the pleura. On either side are ribs, so this is a rib here, because there's a hyperechoic line and then a hypoechoic shadow. And over here we see a hyperechoic line and a hypoechoic shadow, so those are ribs. Here is actually the pleura. The pleura will move with respiration. You'll also see lung pulse. The pleura is composed of both the visceral pleura and the parietal pleura, which slide against each other and give that characteristic sliding lung. Okay. What you can also see below the pleura is you don't get that hypoechoic shadow. You have more of a grayscale shadow below the pleura. You also see these little things that emanate from the pleura and go all the way down to the bottom of the screen, like right there. Those are B lines. So those are also characteristics that you don't have a pneumothorax if you're seeing B lines. A further thing that you can do to determine if you have a pneumothorax is to use motion mode. So I'll put motion mode on over top of the pleura. So you hit the M button on your ultrasound machine, which is motion mode, and then you hit it again to actually go into motion mode. And so if you put motion mode over top of the pleura, what you'll see is basically the sandy shore sign. And if you see the sandy shore sign, then you know that you don't have a pneumothorax in that region. And what do I mean by the sandy shore sign? Well, you can see at the top part of the motion mode screen, you'll see all these waves. So they look like waves or kind of a barcode at the top of like the screen. And then at the bottom of the motion mode screen, you'll see what looks like kind of a sandy shore. And basically what we're picking up is the movement of the pleura at the bottom of the screen, whereas at the top of the screen, the pec major and the pec minor aren't moving that much. So that's what we're picking up. I'm going to simulate what it would look like to have a pneumothorax. So I'm going to reduce the depth, and then I'm going to put motion mode on, And this will simulate what the motion mode will look like if you have a pneumothorax. So here, what you're seeing is basically a barcode sign. So you'll just see basically those waves or the barcode sign when you have a pneumothorax, because you won't be able to see motion of the pleura sliding against one another, the visceral and parietal pleura sliding against one another.